This is Ryan, and welcome back to episode 17 of the Reverse Song Project, featuring actual communications in the form of angelic voice phenomena, clear examples of messages coming from another dimension. Episode 17 opens with a question that is echoed through every generation: who gets to decide what becomes history? When we look back at moments that shook the world, it's striking how quickly the story can shift depending on who holds the pen or the power. In recent years, we watched the events at the U.S. Capitol unfold in real time, broadcast across the globe. Most people described it as an insurrection, a violent breach of democratic process. Yet once political leadership changed, the language around it shifted too. Many began calling it a protest, softening the edges of what millions witnessed with their own eyes. And if something so widely documented can be reframed, it forces us to ask, how much of the past has already been rewritten without us ever knowing? That question feels even heavier now as the world faces another crisis, this time involving escalating conflict in the Middle East with Iran. It's something the angels have been warning us about through the angel scrolls for years. As tensions rise and narratives collide, many people are wondering whether we will ever know the full truth about how and why this war began. In moments like these, information becomes a battlefield, and clarity becomes a casualty. The stakes are no longer just political, they're global, and the consequences ripple far beyond borders. Beneath all of this runs a quiet growing fear. Are we inching toward a third world war? The alliances forming, the retaliations, the rhetoric, the speed at which events unfold. These patterns echo the early tremors of past global conflicts. History teaches us that world wars rarely begin with a single explosion. They begin with a series of moments that people later look back on and say, that's when the fuse was lit. In this episode, framed by the haunting cautionary tale in Johnny Cash, "Don't Take Your Guns to Town," we explore how truth becomes contested, how narratives shape nations, and why understanding the present may be the only way to avoid repeating the darkest chapters of our past. And through it all, we consider one more perspective. The angels who have witnessed history not only in its unfolding but in its aftermath, carrying the memories humanity tries so often to rewrite. When I first reversed this country song shortly after the attack on the Capitol, the message that came through was striking, not just for what it described in the moment, but for what it foresaw. The reverse lyrics spoke about a man driven by anger against God, someone whose influence stirred a crowd into renouncing higher principles and embracing a distorted cause. They described an evil contraption of subversion, a force designed to intercept truth and bury the hopes of those trying to do good. At the time, it felt like a spiritual diagnosis of what we had just witnessed. But as the months unfolded, it became clear that these lines were also pointing toward what would come next. The message warned that this man would refuse to accept the fairness of the election, that he would nurture a sick energy and try to reshape the narrative of what happened. And we watched exactly that unfold. An ongoing attempt to rebrand a violent breach of democracy as something harmless, something justified. The reverse lyrics even spoke of a jealous snake, callous and hateful, resisting accountability and rejecting the divine call to humility and truth. They also described a mob acting against God, ignoring democracy, spreading lies that migrated across the nation and beyond. They foresaw the rising insanity and the spiritual heresy of those who summoned that rally. And woven through all of it was a plea that the Lord's disclosure would eventually reveal the truth, and that those who heard this message would pass the spiritual gift forward, standing for what is right, urging the Senate and the nation to uphold the real result, not the rewritten one. As you listen to this song, keep in mind how these reverse lyrics mirrored both the chaos of that day and the struggle that followed. They weren't just commentary. They were a warning, a prophecy, and a reminder that the world is watching how we respond to truth and what happens when we ignore it. Now let's hear the reversal of Johnny Cash's "Don't Take Your Guns to Town."
The song Ryan chose to do a reversal on for you today is "Don't Take Your Guns to Town." It's a song written and recorded by American singer Johnny Cash. It was released in December 1958 as the first single from the album The Fabulous Johnny Cash. Members of the Western Writers of America chose it as one of the top 100 Western songs of all time.
These next two songs by Alan Jackson, Living on Love and Remember When, I realized I had made a small mistake in my earlier posting. At first I thought the reversal of Living on Love contained the phrase remember when, but after going back through the recordings, I discovered it was actually the remember when reversal itself that carried that phrase, both forward and backward. In its own way, that's just as interesting, because it shows how the reverse message was woven directly into the song it belonged to. Rather than breaking down every line of the reverse lyrics for these two tracks, we're going to move straight into the experience itself. So let's listen now to the reversal of Remember When.
There's nothing apart. You was sad. Dreams of if little last. Never mind. Through the sheet world, they can ask here, message. Yes, so far, no bruin, it's no. Never mind. With noise to breath, rocks and dead, rocks and dead, alive, never remember. Darwin in the volume as a horse surf the way when it was a love. It's nice, most nice of I never mind.
As we listen to the angelic voices hidden within the reversal of Remember When, we're reminded of something deeper than nostalgia, something ancient, something sacred. This reversal called us back to a time when humanity walked with a clearer sense of who we were and who walked with us. Somewhere along the way, we drifted. We let the noise of the modern world drown out the quiet voice of the divine. We traded spiritual awareness for certainty, intuition for measurement, and connection for distraction. And yet, even in our forgetting, God never stopped speaking. The angels never stopped reaching out. Their messages simply waited, embedded in memory, in music, in the spaces between our thoughts, until we were ready to hear again. The suffering and wars we see in the world today are not evidence of God's absence, but of humanity's role. We were never meant to be passive observers. We were meant to be participants, extensions of God's compassion, carriers of His light, and co-creators of healing. When we act with love, when we choose empathy, when we lift someone who has fallen, we become the very answer to the question of suffering. So as this reversal fades, let it leave you with this truth. We have not lost our ancient connection. We have only forgotten it. And remembering is the first step towards a better future. Let this be your reminder, your remember when moment, that the divine still speaks, the angels still guide, and the story of humanity is far from finished. Some are waking up, some are returning, and every act of goodness you choose becomes part of that awakening. In this next reversal, Living on Love, we travel even further back to the very creation of humanity, to God's intention for us, and to the role He continues to play in our existence. There's something I've never spoken about before, and now feels like the right moment to share it. The angels once told me that each of these reverse songs carries something alive within it, something meant for every individual who listens. Sometimes it shows up in the captions, where you might notice a mistranslation, hear a different phrase, or feel that a line doesn't quite make sense. Believe it or not, those moments are intentional. They're placed there for future visionaries, creating openings where listeners can form a deeper connection with God and with the angels, who often speak directly through those subtle spaces. This next song is no exception. So let's listen together, and perhaps, just perhaps, God and the angels have a message meant specifically for you. I transcribed this reversal shortly before the last election, in which Joe Biden was not re-elected. It has since been reported that President Biden is facing a cancer diagnosis, yet he continues to express hope for a more peaceful world, including an end to the conflicts in the Middle East. Many people, as well as the angels, supported him and feel the world would be in a better place today had he won that election. Instead, he was often criticized and belittled in ways many saw as undeserved. If you feel moved to do so, offering a prayer for his well-being may be a meaningful way to show compassion. In this next reverse song, taken from One Night Standards by Ashley McBride, the message that emerges speaks to the soul of humanity and the quiet truth that none of us are meant to walk alone. It reveals a spirit longing for true family, real love, and a destiny shaped by compassion rather than fear. It reminds us that when we offer love freely, we align ourselves with the seeds of God, becoming ordinary people who carry the words of angels, words meant to cleanse worry and guide us toward a life that sustains others. The message also challenges us to look inward. It asks whether we're standing strong like a rock in the desert or letting the desert within, selfishness, fear, or lack of compassion, grow stronger than our better nature. It speaks to those who feel alone or expect love without giving it, warning that when families focus only on problems, worry becomes a kind of sickness that clouds the mind. To live in a world that reflects heaven, we need safe, healing words and a willingness to embrace our shared destiny. It closes with a reminder that survival, healing, and purpose are still singing on a real spiritual channel, one that can mend what's been broken. And it offers gratitude for every act done with sincerity and for God. Getting back to what humanity remembers, there is something important we often overlook: how quickly we can forget. We forget the moments when the angels speak, the prophecies that come through this work, and the blessings that God's people receive when they follow his guidance. In one of the reversals, the angel said the virus would be cured soon. At that time, the world was at its lowest point, and there was little hope that a vaccine would ever be found. Yet, just as the angels foretold, the vaccine arrived shortly after that reversal was recorded. Looking back, some people who criticize President Biden forget the circumstances of that moment. From my perspective, it was during his early leadership that the vaccine became widely available across the world. Many also forget that millions of people were able to stay home, continue working, and still support their families during the crisis. Countless lives would be very different today if not for the compassionate decisions made during that period. This brings us to the next song, performed on July 4th, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol, only a few months after Biden took office. With that context in mind, let's listen to Renee Fleming's reverse rendition of the national anthem.
So this next transcription is an audio recording of Danny the Budgie from 2017, and it was one of his first recordings. This is a quantum reversal, which has both forward and reverse parts transcribed. Some of you may find that the reversal of this is too hard to understand, and that is okay. Keep in mind that it is the reversals that open the channel for Ryan, and without them he would not be able to do the song reversals that you are hearing now.
You can talk louder. Heard loud talking if you Yeah, I can hear you. This will be so I can hear you. You're in the house, he was. You're in the guy. Good boy. It's okay, talk. Tell me about Victor. Can you tell me about Victor? This is your real first recording session and you're only 2 months old. We've only had you for 2 months and maybe you're about 4 months old. So that's pretty amazing. Tell me what you want your name to be. Do you want it to be Danny? Or you want it to be another name? What'd you say? Is there a special name that you want, Danny? No, we in min chapters. Yes, you. Meander than deep now we're. Deep now we. But meander now we must. Number what even this number for that you know oh number in and just surf fire is First if will be my first if will be my
So there are a couple things in that last part that I want to bring to your attention. First, Danny mentioned deities. So what is a deity? Although some people may think that a deity is a god or a goddess because of some of the ancient myths, deities can also be divine beings that have a godly mission. I prefer to think of them as angels. Perhaps hundreds and thousands of years ago, these angels were called deities. However, there is only one God, and the deities work with him like the angels are doing here. He also mentions that this religion has come in the time of suffering and mentions a paradox. When I looked up the word paradox, it said something to the effect that a paradox would be something like a virus being used to cure the same virus, and I thought that was interesting. Before I go any further, he also talked about a song composed in heaven, and I remembered in a previous presentation when I was doing a quantum reversal of Joe Tech's Show Me, the angel said that Joseph was there and would be helping us. So I decided to try another one of Joe's songs and got another incredible spiritual message from it. All I did was just downloaded the song and reversed it. There are absolutely no other changes in it other than the reverse and the reverse captions. This is a quantum reversal of Joe Tech's Hold On.
As it all let the get name what we do name. If there all I won't hear lead the breaker was not doing him. If naked my up next to name. Hell the name could get him was stashed when him was in your smile in the joke. Wish to you so slurred and sin. We say no. Your fib, little man must be sleeping. There's no man alone. It's a little man of my place. No man alone. I believe if I get it out again, get him in the muscle. Ons mag niet op het zich horen. Hoe moet hij houden? De rust benaam, de moe, daar weer zo de moe. Mooi reed ze ook, moet je de moe. De moe op mij de neem, maar de laatste bal aan zo niet. Ze laten de stil. He will say, no. Your fib, stay there, no, must be sweet. Would you want to stay small without one?
Thanks for joining us in this episode. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like, or even subscribe to stay connected. In episode 18, I'll be diving into some Sabrina Carpenter reversals, so be sure to come back so you don't miss it.